When I think about the lessons life teaches us, I'm reminded of a young girl named Tariro, whose name meant hope in Shona. She grew up in a small city in Zimbabwe surrounded by vast mountains and green vegetation. Yet, despite this beauty, there always seemed to be a quiet burden following Tariro like a shadow. She never quite understood why she couldn't connect with peers, with family members. And the day came when this quiet burden caught up with her and cost her her future. An interview. She had to work in a group in front of people, and you can imagine what happened during the interview. She faded in the background. She froze. 2 weeks later, a rejection letter came, and it confirmed the fears that she secretly dreaded, the fears of inadequacy, invisibility, and lack of self-esteem. Forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, but Tariro seems to be a fictional character I created to refer to myself, at least who I used to be. Now the little girl has grown, and she's standing here in front of you with a purpose to inform. Compliments of the day to you all. My name is Holiness Mshlanga, and today I will be talking about the significance of emotional intelligence in today's age. Now, emotional intelligence plays a crucial role in today's age by influencing an internal leadership complex, thus promoting a healthy mindset, improving interpersonal and personal relationships, and contributing to career success. I'm excited to have gotten this opportunity to have this conversation with you all. And in this conversation, I will talk about the key component and significance of emotional intelligence, the impact of emotional intelligence on mental well-being, and lastly, emotional intelligence and its impact in career success. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have to understand that emotional intelligence is more than just understanding emotions. It is a key factor in personal development. Now, I will start off by talking about why and how emotional intelligence has been on the rise. Now, in the journal Developing Emotional Intelligence by Phyllis and Weiss, they credit an author, but before that, they highlight that over the last 30 years, emotional intelligence has attracted attention in literature. In the journal, some scholars even compared emotional intelligence to intellectual intelligence and argue that emotional intelligence is more significant. Now, 13-year-old me would beg to differ, striving for academic excellence whilst neglecting that which fed the intellectual intelligence, my mind. Now, Phyllis and Weiss credit a well-known author, Goldman, who wrote the book entitled Emotional Intelligence and Why It May Matter More Than Intellectual Intelligence. Now, this book brought about the study of emotional intelligence in mainstream media such as the Time magazine, and it became New York Times bestseller, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this gave me something to think about because New York Times bestseller looks for things that are uprising, stories that are controversial, stories that are important, and this actually led me to see why emotional intelligence is extremely important and why we should not ignore it as a society. Now, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is simply the ability to perceive, interpret, and control your own feelings and other people's feelings. Later on, we'll see why it is essential to be able to understand other people's feelings as well. Now, in this same journal, The well-known scholar whom I mentioned before, Goldman, pinpointed that one cannot achieve emotional intelligence without self-awareness, hence marking it as a key component to achieve emotional intelligence. Now, self-awareness is simply understanding who you are. For me, self-awareness is understanding who I am whilst also reflecting and learning from my lived experiences to understand how my actions shape my behavior. For example, when I feel frustrated, I ask myself, what is causing this? Can I solve it? Can I change it? Asking these questions enable me to avoid impulsive reaction. Now, emotional intelligence comes to play when I use that understanding to control my emotions and position myself in spaces that I can be positive to myself and others. Now that we understand the significance and key component of emotional intelligence, let us examine how emotional intelligence impacts mental well-being. Self-esteem. Self-esteem is something that we all know, something that we all talk about. Now, in the journal by Roth and others, it notes a correlation between self-esteem and emotional intelligence. It also notes that as students and future leaders, it is necessary to develop emotional intelligence through self-esteem. Think about that day when a professor asked a question and you knew the answer, but you were not confident enough. So you waited and another person said the answer, the same answer that you knew in your mind. Now, think about that regret that haunted you, knowing that somebody said the answer that you knew. Now, ladies and gentlemen, assuming you had answered that question and your answer was wrong, could you have been expelled for being wrong? No. Could you have been punished for being wrong? No. Emotional intelligence involves asking yourself such questions to be able to dismiss the delusions that could cause anxiety and self-sabotage. I want to talk about religion for just a minute. In the scholarly journal, Emotional Intelligence, Religious Orientation, and Mental Health Among University Students, the study shows a strong connection between religious orientation and achieving emotional intelligence, and it notes a positive connection. Now, imagine someone who follows Buddhism. They constantly emphasize mindfulness and compassion. This person develops a heightened sense of self and control. So, ladies and gentlemen, whether it is the Christian practice of forgiveness or the Islamic emphasis on charity or the Jewish tradition of Tikkun Olam, which means repairing the world, religion plays a significant role in attaining emotional intelligence, a positive role. Now that we have talked about the impact of emotional intelligence on mental well-being, let us explore its influence on career success. Now, in the journal Developing Emotional Intelligence by Phyllis and Weiss, they credit a scholar, Bradbury and Greaves, who note that 83% of people who rank high in self-awareness are top performers, while only 2% of bottom performers rank high in self-awareness. 83%, ladies and gentlemen. Now hold that thought. How many people in the room want to be entrepreneurs? Show by the raise of hands. Okay, that's a few hands. Now, how many people in the room want to be rich? Okay, that's all of us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, approximately 75% of people, of the world's richest people, are entrepreneurs. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, etc. Now, let me ask this again. How many people in the room want to be entrepreneurs? Okay, I even see 2 hands raised. Okay, so What's even more interesting is in the scholarly journal, the Journal of Economics, it notes emotional intelligence is one of the main factors influencing the success of an entrepreneurial business leader. It also notes that high performance leader has an unbiased real self-awareness, knows his own abilities and uses them to build and realize his own vision. Now that's a lot of responsibility if you ask me. But we are also supposed to know that an entrepreneur is forced to exceed their own expectations and other people's expectations as well. Being able to understand other people's emotions as well, emotional intelligence. Now that we have looked at why emotional intelligence is essential, let us conclude. Thank you for embarking on this journey with me. Throughout the conversation, we talked about the key component and significance of emotional intelligence, its impact on mental well-being, and its role in business success. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a hard age. Everything is valid. Everyone's emotions are valid. I wish 13-year-old me knew that in order to navigate in this world, in order to be able to navigate, is to be able to manage your emotions in this emotionless world. With this, I thank you.